Welcome to the John Fredericks Radio Network and the John Fredericks Show, Corey Lewandowski. You've been with Trump since 2015, but you did rejoin the campaign in the last several months, right?
So I started the political operation for Donald Trump in January of 2015, turned the lights on, first employee ever hired. In August of this year, President Trump asked me to come back and take a formal role in the campaign as a senior advisor for the last, what at that point was the last almost 90 days. And had the privilege to come back, serve in a senior capacity for the 2024 campaign cycle, traveled with the president extensively the last probably 3 weeks on every stop he did on the airplane, helped him to execute 17 town hall meetings focused specifically on women with high-profile individuals like Tulsi Gabbard and Marsha Blackburn, Anna Paulina Luna, etc. We did those around the country focusing on his message for women because the mainstream media told us that women were going to turn out in record numbers, and they told us they would do that for Vice President Harris. We know that wasn't true. Helped to put together a surrogate operation. We executed almost 200 surrogate events in less than 75 days. Did 200 media hits, and then also put together our congressional relations operations where we had our team briefing members of Congress, making sure that Donald Trump was helping candidates in difficult districts, and particularly in battleground states like Ohio and Pennsylvania, where he carried those candidates across the line. So I had a small role, a very small cog in the wheel of the 2024 Trump campaign, but it's been an honor to be here from the beginning and to continue on this journey with him now that he's a president-elect once again.
It's just phenomenal. It makes your head swim. I've watched politics my entire life. I've never seen a phenomenon like Donald Trump. And I'm going to challenge you just a little bit that when you say you played a small role, I know that you're just being humble. But I've got this perception that Trump absolutely adores you, almost like a fourth son to him. And I noticed, Corey, when you came back into the campaign, even though the talking heads weren't out there really saying it, but I felt it. I felt the energy. I felt a surge of momentum and just a new wind in the sail, if you would, that really, I think, did help propel this campaign over to get to the finish line with a tremendous amount of momentum. What is your magic, Corey?
Well, John, I've known Mr. Trump, President-elect, President, post-President Trump for over a decade now, and we have a familiarity with each other. And, when you look at the media, they say Corey Lewandowski plays to Donald Trump's worst instincts. Well, if his worst instincts are to go and talk to the American people, then I'm guilty as charged. If his worst instincts are to let Trump be Trump, absolutely guilty as charged, because I have witnessed a man who has the greatest political instincts I have ever seen, a man who came onto the scene having never run for office before or served in a military capacity, and he took this country by storm and built something that will never be replicated, at least in our lifetime. He's taken over this country, and it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, white, black, green, orange, or purple. He has the same message for everybody, which is economic prosperity and safety and security for your family. And so, yes, I encourage the president to go out and do more rallies. I encourage him to do these town hall meetings. I encourage him to do 3, 4, and 5 stops a day. I encourage him to go directly to the American people. And at the end of the day, John, and I say this with all humility, the success of Donald Trump is because of one individual, and his name is Donald Trump. Everybody else plays a cursory role. But this is a man who, if he had an airplane and a microphone...
Excuse me for interrupting just a second. Part of his genius is picking the right people. The people that he puts around him are rock stars. They are the best of the best. And I think that, again, he ends up with the credit, but the people that have worked so hard and are so loyal to him deserve an equal amount of appreciation, at least from me.
Well, look, he's got some amazing people around him, and some of the people who have been with him from the beginning, and I mean the beginning, John, are, Justin Capriel, who does the President's Advance work, which I believe he's the best advance guy in American history. Every event you've ever seen with President Trump looks professional, well executed, amazingly difficult, complex things to do, whether it's a Madison Square Garden event or an outdoor airplane rally. Justin, is incredible. You look at some of these team members, Stephen Miller, who's been around a long time, Jason Miller, who's been around a long time. I think back to anybody who worked in Trump Tower with us 10 years ago and is still there today, is not there because they're trying to enrich themselves or better themselves. They're there for the right reasons. And I've seen a lot of people come and go. But what I have seen is a true love for America from Donald Trump and his family, and the trials and tribulations that they have been through are finally coming to an end. The American people have spoken and say no more two-tier justice system. Let's go and fix this country, and let's make sure that we're moving on the right track, because 70% of Americans believed on Election Day the country was going in the wrong direction.
So if you zoom back and you look at the Dems, there have got to be some smart people that are members of the Democratic Party, but is it that their values are so misplaced, or are they that inept? And to me, the proof positive of that is that they just suffered one of the most embarrassing losses of the modern day political environment. Yet they're still doubling down and saying, oh, we just got the narrative wrong. We didn't have the right talking points for the American people. And I'm like, in my own mind, I'm like, how dumb can you be? It's not the talking points. It's not the narrative. You were just lying. Every time you open your mouth, you're telling lies, and the American people are no longer subject to accepting your lies. And so it backfired. And so they're still convincing themselves if they had just had better talking points. How about just deciding to tell the truth? And we can debate with the truth what's the best solution. And to me, that's what politics should be about.
John, there are some smart people over there. David Axelrod was pressing the panic button for a long time. He's not a dummy. I've known David very, as a phenomenally smart political operative who put the uniform on and helped get Barack Obama elected. He was pressing the panic button both about Biden's candidacy and Vice President Harris's candidacy, because he could see very clearly, even as a Democrat, even as a liberal, that their messaging wasn't working. Their only messaging was that Donald Trump was dangerous. They had no response for the fact that Donald Trump is going to provide economic prosperity for the country. They had no response for the fact that Donald Trump is going to close our borders and make sure that our families are safe again. Their only message was Donald Trump's rhetoric is dangerous, and that's not a winning message. And then what did they do? They had the mainstream media, talk about this all the time, just promote this narrative. And what we see, John, is more and more people are getting their information from outside the mainstream media because their believability, their favorability, the mainstream media is somewhere less than Congress, which is about 8%, because they perpetuated lies. Donald Trump has a $10 billion with a B dollar lawsuit pending against CBS News because of what they did on 60 Minutes, changing Vice President Harris's answers because they didn't think that her answer was appropriate, so they changed it to try and manipulate the election. They say it's free speech. It's not free speech. It's election interference. But the mainstream media, Joe Scarborough and his band of merry men, sat there and told us how dangerous it would be, and now they're coming back and saying, we want to provide fair and balanced coverage. That's because their viewership is in the tank. CNN, in the tank. MSNBC, in the tank. The American people are tired of having these people who are supposed to be so-called journalists tell us how terrible Donald Trump is and not giving us a fair opportunity to hear. And that's why Donald Trump bypassed them all and went directly to the American people. And, John, through radio hosts and through the podcast, Joe Rogan or the Nelk Boys or all of those long-form format interviews is what really helped us with the younger demographic who no longer consumes their information from ABC, NBC, or CBS.
I've been a political junkie since I put a bumper sticker on for Richard Nixon in 1960 at the tender age of 7 years old. I have not stopped since then. It's just always been a fascination to me. I have never seen a better organized and a better executed campaign at any level in my entire life. He touched every single person in America. He went places that no Republican candidate would have even thought about going, like into Brooklyn and into California, where he had zero chance of winning. But he narrowed the gap, 9% in New York, 10% in California. It's mind-boggling what you guys accomplished.
Well, John, and don't forget, we were in New Mexico with less than a week to go in the election. People said, you can't win New Mexico. But what did Donald Trump achieve? Not only did he get 312 electoral votes, he won the popular vote. And that takes the narrative away from the left that says he's an illegitimate president, because that's what their narrative was going to be. So the rationale of going to these places, particularly late in the campaign, to narrow the gap. Look, we lost Rhode Island by 5 points. We lost New Jersey by 5 points. Okay? That all counts towards the total votes that Donald Trump received. And it becomes much more difficult for the fake news to come out and say, well, Donald Trump wasn't truly elected because Kamala Harris got X amount of more votes. She did not. She lost in a stunning defeat. And so this campaign was structured to obviously win the Electoral College. 312 is a massive blowout. It beats what I was able to help achieve in 2016, which was 306. Incredible 32-state victory. You know, the largest since really the Reagan reelect. When you look at what we've done, what he has done with the African-American vote, with the Hispanic vote, with the young vote, with the female vote, overperforming her in the 18 to 25 demographic by 6 points. It shows a level of sophistication that will be talked about for decades to come.
Corey, give us a little look behind the curtain. How are decisions made in Trump world? First of all, how many people worked as paid staffers in the campaign headquarters? How many people would you say are in the inner circle, the executive staff, if you will, the people who have the president's ear on a daily basis? Can you help us understand the decision-making process and how it works?
You know, John, we were very much a meritocracy at the campaign. And as you look at the campaign headquarters staff in West Palm Beach, the 2 floors of offices that we had probably had a cumulative total of somewhere north of 150, but less than 200 people in it. That includes all of the advance team. That includes all of the surrogate operations. It includes all of the administrative folks. It includes all the people who are doing travel and the fundraising operation, as well as the senior leadership team. And then, you know, from the senior leadership side, it was a relatively small group. Obviously, people are well-versed in who Susie Wiles is. Tony Fabrizio, who served as our principal pollster, had a say at the table. James Blair, who was the political director of both the campaign and the Republican National Committee. You start to assemble and you look at that. It was a very small, tight-knit group of advisors, some of which are household names, some of which are not. But the reality is everybody, whether it's Jason Miller, who was responsible for the overall communication structure, or Corey Lewandowski, who all had their say, Donald Trump was and will always be the final arbiter and final decision maker. And so as we proposed ideas, recommendations, suggestions, thinking that we were the geniuses, he'd say yes or no, and that was the final answer. And many times there were recommendations and suggestions that we as the senior team would come up with and vet and say, boy, this is a great idea. And we'd bring it to him and say, yeah, hey, that's a stupid idea. We're not doing that, okay? And guess what, John? That's how it worked. But he's also the one when there were some who said we should not play Madison Square Garden. This is not in the state of New York is not in play. Donald Trump said, we're going to do it, and we're going to execute it, and it's going to be incredible. And by the way, it was a worldwide media attention event, and he was right again. So, you know, I continuously defer to his judgment, his recommendations. I don't want to exclude people, so I don't want to name everybody. Boris Epstein had a huge role in the campaign. Obviously, Stephen Miller, a huge role in the campaign. Stephen Chung. You know, some of these names are well known. Others have been quietly providing incredibly smart counsel and wisdom. And, you know, the team that was assembled was incredibly professional, incredibly smart, incredibly dedicated. And it's really been an honor of mine to work with these people and have a say, and have, really more importantly, John, the opportunity to travel and see firsthand, what has been happening and what happened on the campaign, and having some input in it.
Okay, so interestingly, of all the people that you mentioned, you did not mention Eric, Don, Ivanka, Barron. I know Barron's not there for policy, but people are giving him wide credit for having connected President Trump with podcasters to get to young people. And I do think that was genius. I mean, to go on Joe Rogan and that young guy whose name I can't remember. I mean, it had the benefit of allowing us to see the Donald Trump that and the people that are close to him know.